What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. I'm going to paint an imaginary scenario for you here where LeBron opts out of his player option this summer, and he calls Kobe Altman and he says, I want to come sign a veteran minimum contract in Cleveland. Would you take him?
Yeah. I think people who I would, like, and by the way, we got the full med level. We don't have to cut him that much.
Yeah,
we're not a tax team right now, Jason. Yeah, of course I would. I mean, I have, my co-host Justin, I think it gets a little grumpier with LeBron's antics and finds it more exhausting than I do. I kind of think it's fun. It's kind of silly, like I joke that it feels like almost like a cup of your mom's chicken noodle soup when LeBron's getting a little passive aggressive. Like I'm just far enough away emotionally now where I can kind of just like see that for what it is. And the narrative of him closing out in Cleveland has always super appealed to me. And also maybe this is some Napoleon complex stuff, but isn't it kind of nice, the idea that the first two times LeBron was a Cavalier, he was coming to save them. And as like a present to him on the way out, they can be the safe haven for him. They can be the team that is ready-made to plug him in and become a title contender, and help send him off into the sunset. Like I think there's something kind of nice about that narratively. Like I care about stories as much as anyone. And doesn't that just feel like the way it's supposed to end, not just like fading away and on unhappy, odd fitting teams in LA? I don't know if obviously supposed to is probably overstepping. He's an adult with his own wants, needs. His kid's still in one of his kids is still in high school. Maybe he does, like there's a billion reasons he shouldn't, but just as like a basketball narrative, isn't that kind of the coolest story, to come back and win one more, but this time as the wise old man, not as the savior?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to
either.
leave. I agree with you for those reasons. But like, and I think this is all classic LeBron just trying to leverage the front office into being more aggressive. But like, it makes a lot of basketball sense.
Talk about like, a big playmaking wing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, all they can do is run pick and roll. They need another way to initiate offense. It's like, oh, well, LeBron's one of the best at that like kind of matchup attacking forward position. It's like, oh, well, LeBron typically can't play the three because he can't chase guys around on the perimeter. It's like I just watched Evan Mobley chase Kawhi Leonard around. And like Evan Mobley can kind of take more of the perimeter oriented assignments at that position. It's like, oh, well, they can struggle sometimes against really physical teams on the defensive glass. It's like I just watched LeBron grab 20 20 rebounds in a game against the Warriors the other night. Like it is a natural basketball fit. And to your point, like, there's all these other basketball teams that make sense. Like, it's like he'd be really good in Oklahoma City. He'd be really good in Minnesota. But it's like he would never leave to go to a situation like that. If he was going to leave, it would be for something like Cleveland. And I love the way you put that in terms of like LeBron came to save Cleveland, so to speak. But what if Cleveland got to save him? That would be.
Yeah,
really,
and I'm
really
sure
cool.
he'd hate all that framing.
Yeah, exactly. And he'd push back on that like crazy. I thought that's exactly what would happen. He would be gunning for stats in the NBA Finals to make sure he got that Finals MVP. All right, so what is your favorite LeBron moment with the Cavs that is not the 2016 championship?
I think I have to go back to when I was a kid and the explosion against Detroit, the 25 straight in 07. I am of the opinion so I did not grow up in a basketball obsessed household because like my dad doesn't really like sports. So like I loved basketball when I was a kid. Don't get me wrong. I watched it with my brother all the time and we loved it. We loved, the Shaq Kobe Lakers. And, my first basketball memory is Jordan's last shot against Utah. I was 7 or 8 years old. But I really strongly believe like you don't actually know what the hell you're watching until you're like 16 or 17. I just think before that, you're just a dumb kid that doesn't really know how to interpret what's going on. So like, I feel like that push against the Pistons where he just, went absolutely ballistic was like, it was like my basketball bar mitzvah, I became a man watching that, and like my obsession with the game, I feel like went up another notch with that run. And it was just so fun. It was like the the first time I watched Basketball Majesty and had the frame of reference to understand it, and really contextualize it. So that's got to be my favorite because, I remember exactly where I was. I remember calling my mom into the room to watch. Like it was like a whole thing. So yeah, that's got to be my pick.
I remember like because I that came at a much younger point in my life too, and I was just so much more emotional as a fan. Like I vividly remember Daniel Marshall missing the corner three and being completely devastated in game one. And then I vividly remember the news cycle about him passing out of the final shot. And then I vividly remember in game two when he drove down the lane and got fouled like three times on his way to the basket, and that being the whole thing. I remember in game three and four, like just the unbelievable momentum plays he made at home as they tied the series. And then I remember even game six after game five when he was kind of off and Daniel Gibson went off and they it was just like that whole series as a it's funny because I'm sure you feel this way too. Where like as we've become older, we've almost become jaded to the point where we're like we almost
Yeah,
underreact to everything, which is it's so much more
sure.
boring than what it was like when we were kids. But dude, I remember those Cavs playoff runs as just being such an emotional roller coaster, and like even some of the bad ones, like the 2010 run. It's like right before he was so bad, and at the end of that series, remember Game Three when he went in when it was 1-1, and he just completely obliterated them in Boston. Like it just, yeah, it's crazy. My like foundational basketball moments as a fan are all like LeBron James playoff
Yeah, it
runs.
makes sense. I
It,
mean,
it
he
it's
he
crazy what
like,
that's
and that's
like.
part of the reason, like, why I think anyone who says they don't want him back, I just don't believe them because, like, I just think he's kind of hard coded, especially for Cavs fans, like into our basketball DNA for good or for better. I mean, I remember that first year he was in Miami, and there was a big like running bit online, Cavs for Mavs. Like, oh, let me tell you something, Jason. I have deleted so many humiliating Facebook statuses complaining about LeBron during the Miami era because you get the memories, and I'll see some like, "Oh, LeBron, this guy sucks." Like I was just such a like just a dumb kid, angry that my basketball hero left me. So like like it's just been such an important part of this era of NBA history, and so anyone who's my age, maybe a little bit older, a little bit younger, like he's been kind of at the core of it. So of course it's going to be interesting every time, like he gets passive aggressive. Of course, people in my DMs are like, "The return," like it's just going to be part of it, and like that's kind of part of the fun. I don't expect it to ever happen, but like I think he's the best player of all time, and like it's been really really fun to root for him, root against him. He's never boring, and that's what I think is really funny about him.